Sarah, welcome to Women Finding Clarity.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, Pascal. I've been waiting for a while for us to be able to meet. So this is exciting. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I was really excited to bring you to my listeners because you just have so much to offer. I feel like there's so many different parts and pieces of you that make up the whole of who you are. And you just show up in such a beautiful light and in so many different ways. You're a listener and you're a speaker and you're a teacher and you're a healer and you're a friend and all the things. So, welcome,
Hmm.
welcome.
Oh, thank you. I just got chills and I felt that warm welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And, one of our mentors has been talking about how important it is now to bring more of ourselves into everything we do. And
Yes.
that is, one of my goals in life. Instead of feeling like I'm fragments of things, that I can bring all of what I love and everything that I'm passionate about into my work, into every day, and into, every opportunity that I have to speak with somebody, to share, to teach. So that's one of my goals. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
Oh, absolutely. And what a beautiful goal that is because when we can share authentically and from our heart, you don't know the magic that's going to come from that place, right? We can have, as coaches, as healers, as teachers, we can have an outline of what
Mm.
our plans are to do, and at the same time, you never know what's going to become of it because other souls are involved and spirit moves through you, and so you feel activated to talk about something that you didn't necessarily plan. Or yeah, I just
Absolutely. When I show up with a client, I like to have a plan. I like to have an idea of what I want to do, but then I show up and I'm just most of the times I am led to something different. And having a plan is great, having, an idea of a map of where I want to go, but at the same time, showing up present and knowing that all the tools that we have will be used if needed. And then really listening and being with a person and knowing what they need. So here I am listening for your audience and what it is that your audience needs that I could offer, right? And that will make a difference. So that's
yeah.
my goal for this talk, that I offer something valuable to the women that will be hopefully listening. Yes, with
I
all my
have
heart.
no doubt that you're already offering value in what you just said, and it's so beautiful. Um, I think just we're never, not never. I don't like absolutes, but frequently we're not in this place of just allowing. And as coaches and as teachers, we feel like we have to give the other person everything that we know, and we want to make sure we give as much value as we can. And sometimes the value is in not over giving. Sometimes the value is just in allowing what needs to come through to come through.
I can't believe you're using that word because I just taught a master class last week. And one of the teaching points was the difference between doing and allowing.
Interesting. Let's talk about that a little bit. Can you kind of
Yes.
just give us a little
Mhm.
summary of what that was like?
So I was speaking about, it was a class on health and vitality, 3 steps to health and vitality. And, um, really addressing the back pain, joint pain, stress, fatigue, overwhelm that we see is just so prevalent, right? Maybe ourselves we're struggling, right, with this issues. And I'm thinking and I'm, studying and going to my own teachers and asking and is there something that's connecting all of this? Again, it's not fragments, but this is something that must have the same root cause, perhaps. And so, as I was thinking about it, I came up with this teaching around the allowing, which is the core of the practice that I do. So, a big reason why we get into trouble as human beings is because we want to do so much. We have something called the end gaining mentality, the no pain, no gain mentality,
Yeah.
right? And so we become human doings instead of human beings.
Mm.
And if you translate this into, something like one of the things that I work most with is movement. If we translate this into movement, it's a very different experience to feel you are doing the movement as opposed to allowing the movement to flow through you. Or the breath. Do I feel like I need to manufacture my breath, which would be impossible because, how long can we keep our mind on our breath? A few seconds. We can let ourselves be breathed, breathed. I don't know how you would say that in English, but let the breath flow through you. So it's not something that I am doing, it's something that I'm allowing to happen. And it's a very different state of being. The doing state is kind of imposing my will on things. It's coming from willpower and force, and there's a place for that, determination. Of course, but then there has to be a balance with the allowing and being in a flow state. That's what really being in a flow state is the allowing. So it's a balance between taking action and then allowing things to happen. Does
Mm.
that explain it?
It sure does. And I think that it's difficult, or many people find it difficult to be in that flow state, or if they can be in the flow state, to maintain that flow state. Right. And so, do you have any tips or tricks that you use to kind of put yourself into that place?
Well, that's exactly, when we can give ourselves a pause, a moment to stop, it allows our body to reset. We can't change, the trajectory we're going on. If you're driving 100 miles an hour, you can't suddenly turn. If you want to change and go on another road, you need to slow down. And sometimes you need to make a complete stop and then turn. So at least slowing down, taking a pause or slowing down is the first step.
Mm.
It is that opportunity then for you to notice, am I gripping? Am I tensing? Am I doing too much that's unnecessary? We want to be efficient with our energy, right? So if I'm, straining really hard in a way that's very unnecessary, I'm using energy in a way that's just a waste. And so taking that pause, taking a moment, taking a breath. And when I say taking a breath, I want to erase that sentence, go back and not say taking a breath, because when I say taking a breath, most people think of inhaling. And my invitation is to exhale as a way to bring yourself into a state of calm. So that's my tip. Exhale, give yourself a pause, exhale, and just notice what's happening around you, what's happening within you. And that will change your way of thinking. It's really changing from the thinking, I have to do all of it, to the allowing state.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. And I loved your visual about the car because I'm a very visual person. And so I'm not sure if I've ever thought of it that way, that if you're driving along at 100 miles an hour and you want to turn, you want to go a different way, you do have to slow down. And so it's in the slowing down that you're actually allowing it to happen. Because if you try
Yes.
to make the turn going 100 miles an hour, that's catastrophic.
And Pascal, the other thing is, if we're in a very altered state, if our nervous system is very activated, you don't want to suddenly crash it
Right.
and bring it all the way down. It's like a ladder. You need to slowly start to bring yourself back down into a state of calm, into a more balanced state. So it's that slowing down again, like coming down a ladder, right? So up here, it's like very dangerous. Imagine being at the top of a ladder, right?
Yeah.
You're very exalted, your nervous system is very activated, and then you can slowly start to bring yourself down.
Mm,
Yes.
so beautiful.
Hmm.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I mean, as you were speaking, I felt my whole being just start to come down a little bit and start to relax. And I love that you're like, it's not take a breath, it's exhale.
Hmm. Because air is a gas. You don't need to pull it into your lungs. You just need to make space for it. So if you allow yourself a full exhale and it's empty, gas is going to want to fill up that empty space. So if you want a deep breath, just make sure you empty out your lungs. Make a full exhalation. And then allow the breath to come in. Allow. You don't have to pull it in. Isn't that nice? Isn't that amazing?
So nice. It's so nice. And it's so nice for what it actually is, the breath that sustains us and that, keeps us in our being. But it's also so nice to use just as a visual for any other
Mm.
thing in your life
Yes,
and just allowing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned something else that I think is interesting, that you said you felt your own nervous system, something coming calming down. And it's something fascinating that happens, as teachers, as coaches, and we didn't know that it could happen online. But you walk into a room and your teacher is there, and just by seeing them you feel calmer, right? Oh, I'm in my yoga class or my meditation practice, and oh, good. And we didn't know if this could translate online, and it does. So just being in each other's presence, right? We can start bringing that sense of homeostasis and balance to ourselves, to each other, to the people that we're working with, through just who we are being. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, of course, I want to provide information and content and all of that. But just knowing, especially I think this for women, just knowing what a difference our presence makes,
Yeah,
I think
it
is
is
wonderful.
wonderful. It is wonderful. And, part of that as an energy worker, it's being in someone's energy. And when those energies overlap, we can feel the energy, right? Part of it is physiological and psychological. It's, oh, I'm looking at Sarah and I know how she makes me feel. And so before she even says a word, my brain connects. Oh, I know how she makes me feel. And so that's what's coming up. And so I automatically start to feel that way before you
Hmm.
even begin.
And then to be able to use these things consciously is very empowering. So, learning to control our breath is learning to control our mind. They're inextricably linked, right? Breath and mind. Um, and learning how to use our body language, our movement, our posture, our voice consciously, knowing that the way that we are showing up is going to have an impact.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has an impact on other people, of course, but doesn't it have an impact on ourselves? Because think about the difference of how you feel if you're not grounded and you're not in the moment, and maybe you're bringing in the frenzied energy from the not wonderful day that you've had into a conversation with someone else, you're showing up very differently, aren't you? So it impacts the other person. And at the same time, it impacts you because your exchange with that person is going to be impacted. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're really doing yourself a disservice by not consciously grounding into the new moment.
Yes, that's so good. And then, so many internal things that become obstacles, so many internal thoughts and beliefs, and I catch myself also, and I really put my foot down a few days ago and I said, no more disparaging, thoughts against Sara, right?
Yes.
I need to stop this, and and so I just I offer that just to say like I'm definitely a work in progress, and I'm catching myself and noticing that internal dialogue, and and knowing all that I know about how I can breathe differently, I can move my body differently, I can hold and use my posture differently, and still I think that it is an interesting, I don't want to say a battle, because I want to move out of battlefields, and I want to create a culture of peace.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how it's so prevalent, the negativity and the oh, will I, am I worthy of being in Women Finding Clarity, right? um
Yes.
and it's so interesting that those thoughts keep coming up.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so yeah, go ahead.
sorry, you're all about movement. And so it's a dance, isn't it? It's allowing the thought to come in and not fighting against it necessarily, but allowing it to come in, noticing it, and then allowing it to dance right back out again.
Mhm.
Because, the more you notice it, the more you have an awareness that you don't want to hold on to that thought. You want to allow it to move back out again.
Yes, yes. But there's also that part of empathy, because we have these feelings and we have these thoughts, then we can understand when there are people that come to us that are struggling in this way.
Yeah.
We can really say, I really know what you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And even if it's on a different subject matter, the feelings are still there. The feelings of unworthiness, not enoughness, of shame, of guilt, of, all those feelings. It can be a different topic, but the feelings are the same.
Absolutely. And what's been interesting is to learn more and more about the different breathing patterns that accompany different emotional states.
Interesting. Let's
So
talk about that a little bit.
hmm So, like, for example, depression. We can paint a whole picture around depression of the way a person would hold their body. So I would see, probably a rolled over shoulders, and a person a little bit collapsed and hunched over, kind of protecting, the front of the body. And I'm demonstrating it. If you're listening, I'm sort of demonstrating it right now with my body. My voice starts to change a little bit as I start to collapse down. It starts to get this more gravelly sound. I'm sort of pulling myself down. And because I'm pulling myself down and I'm collapsing, and probably my eyesight would start to drop, this makes it hard for my arms to move. They feel heavier. Everything in me is starting to feel heavier. And because I'm compressing my diaphragm because of this posture, my breathing also gets heavier. And usually it's sort of a sigh sort of breath, and it's very difficult to allow that air to come back in because everything's pressing down.
Mm,
So that would be a more common pattern. I want to get out of that. I don't want to tell my body that we're going to stay there. So that would be a more common pattern of, yeah, of depression. And then different with anxiety, right? That anxious feeling that comes from, also a feeling of fear, and it gets trapped high up in the chest, and it's very shallow. It's very shallow. And so our own breathing is then reinforcing, because this, I'm not going to be getting enough oxygen. it's going to then become a vicious circle. So when I make that pause that I spoke about in the beginning, when I make that pause and I notice, okay, where am I? And we could oversimplify things and say that those would be the two main patterns, either the collapse or the overarched or overextended.
Yeah.
And so noticing that and then changing our breath is a conscious way to come out of that pattern. So that's fascinating. Science is proving that changing your breathing will change your emotional state. It will change your hormonal state. So it's very powerful. And these are things that ancient cultures have known, ancient practices have known. And it's wonderful that now modern science is proving the wisdom of all of this.
Yes. There's so much wisdom in ancient practices. And as a Western society, we're so quick to throw things away, right? And in Eastern culture, it just seems more like, let's hold on to the ritual, let's hold on to the tradition, let's really hold on to what works. It's not as much of a disposable society. I don't know, I would say society, maybe culture, maybe mindset. But in Western mindset, Western culture, everything seems much more disposable.
Yes, yes. Of course,
Shiny
let's not
object syndrome.
not totally romanticize, because there
Right.
are things like human women's rights, right? That,
Yes.
we are so fortunate and, coming up on International Women's Day is so important to acknowledge every shift that also and all the privileges that, we have in the Western world. So
Yes.
I also want to say that, I'm not about, oh, let's go back to those ways. I think, how can we gain, knowledge and insight and wisdom from everything?
Yeah, integration. How can we integrate? And I love that because when I was talking about it, I was thinking more about medicine women and medicine men and, those kinds of healing practices. But 100%, I agree with you. It's the integration. There's not, one is better than the other. It's not, all or nothing. It's let's take what works and let's hold on to that. And also at the same time, let's innovate and let's explore and let's create, right?
Yes, yes. Creative energy. That's our life force. That's our vitality. It's our
Yeah.
prana. It's our chi. That's how ancient cultures, termed it. And it seemed to be something, could you measure it? Really? But now more and more we're starting to understand that there is truth to all of these teachings and practices. And so it's wonderful that there's so much more opening in mainstream culture. Sometimes these teachings also sort of get distorted because, we are a culture of disposable things, right? And fashion and fads.
Yeah.
But still, some of the really good elements we are able to keep, and that's wonderful.
Yeah. So you are a dancer, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you were a little girl, when did you start dancing?
Um, Probably in my mother's womb,
I love
but
it.
well, there's like evidence. There's pictures of me as a 3-year old, 4-year old, 5-year old dressing up in costumes and just being in the center of the room whenever there was music and just being this beautiful expression of life. Um, Absolutely, um, you know, no self consciousness, just very expressive and joyful. And it was never a question. I knew I was going to be a dancer, and that was it. That was going to be my path in life for sure. And then things happened, and both things that made me really question whether I had talent and whether I deserved to be a dancer was I good enough? Right? Such a struggle and painful thing for young girls to go through, and so much competition. And then a lot of injuries and stress and illness that took me out.
Mm.
So I what I thought was going to be, my career, I actually realized at one point that that wasn't really going to lead me to, that wasn't really my life path. And so there was a moment when things just absolutely came to a halt. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome when I was young. I had bursitis in my hips and chronic pain. And then you know, I stopped. I realized I couldn't keep going. And so that started me on this journey of understanding health and vitality and how to move in a way that's integrated and conscious and that doesn't hurt you. And it's been a wonderful journey. And then the one thing that I do want to say is that in that journey, something also beautiful unfolded for me, because perhaps I didn't hear the message correctly when I was 3 years old. It wasn't, you're supposed to be a dancer, it was, you're an artist.
Mm.
So that's a little broader. And, I was 35 when I discovered I could sing. And so the artist in me, is now able to express herself in this other way. And now I can bring both my dancing and my voice and my singing into my performances. And, I continue to perform, and I'm doing a very cool project here in Mexico in a few weeks. And so things are happening in that regard. And I just want to share that because I do think that the dreams we have as children are, treasures, and we give up. But if we give ourselves the opportunity, there are ways to bring those dreams back and to
Mm.
give them life and to give our lives, a feeling of magic and wonder and excitement that I think is so important for health.
For life, for living, for being, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And how beautiful that you didn't discover that you were a singer until you were 35. I mean, what a beautiful example of we're always transitioning, we're always evolving, we're always becoming.
It's so strange. I just kept hearing this little voice say, I want to live in music. I want to live in music. I was supposed to go to law school. I had gotten accepted. I had a scholarship. Everything was set for me to go to law school. But I kept hearing this voice. And then, certain things happened. And suddenly a friend of mine said, Hey, I think you can sing. And then just things happened. I mean, it really sounds too good to be true, but honestly, from I think you can sing to I'm on stage singing, it was a matter of weeks. Um,
Wow.
yes, so that was, but I just kept hearing, so what's that little voice inside of each of us, right? What is that true desire? What I really would love to do. Like what I really would love to do is perform or, share and be on stage. And I love teaching, but there's this little part of me that's what I would love to do. So I invite everybody, be courageous and listen, because, we might think it's too late, it's too hard, there's no way, I have so many responsibilities. But let's give some space to those dreams that, perhaps they're like in the depths of our hearts. And if we didn't have those, if there wasn't something in the universe, in God, or whatever you believe in, that has put that seed in you, it wouldn't be there. I
That's
really believe that.
mm, I
So
believe
it's a
that as
dream.
well. And what a
Yes.
beautiful message to never stop. Never stop allowing yourself to continue to become. Never stop listening to that little place inside of you, because we do have this feeling like, oh, I was born to be a dancer. I was born to be a teacher. I was born to be a mother, whatever the thing is. But we are creative beings, and those seeds are planted deep inside of us. And so, sure, you're a dancer, and right? So, what is each person that's listening? I want you to ask yourself, what's my and?
Yes. And I do think that one of the things that we do need to let go of is that it might not look the way we thought it was going to look.
Right.
I am not prima ballerina in a ballet, right? So I'm not that kind of dancer. And because I thought that being a dancer only looked a certain way, that didn't allow for other things to take, become alive in me. So, can we let go of the perfectionism and of thinking that there's only one way that the universe will answer our prayers, and trust and trust ourselves also? I
Yeah.
love that you asked that question.
No,
Yes.
so beautiful as you're talking, it's when we're holding so tightly onto the idea of what we think it should be versus releasing it and allowing it. And I love dance, so how can I bring more of that into my life? Your life might not be, or most likely would not be the same if you were a prima ballerina, right? Think of the experiences that you wouldn't have been able to have. Think about the level of stress that that life would have brought into your life. And not that it wouldn't be amazing and you wouldn't still feel successful, but holding on to a prima ballerina is the only way to feel successful.
Yes. I know.
That you if you held on to that, that's your only level of success and that's your measure, you wouldn't be able to live in your creativity and have discovered your voice and, you know, taken to the stage in this amazing way of dancing and singing, but also your virtual stage of teaching and of leading and guiding.
Hmm. Yes. And, I'm having so much fun, like I said, bringing more of myself into what I'm teaching. I just don't want to forget an idea. I do want to say something about that, but I just do want to say for people that are, okay, like, I'm starting to hear something inside my heart. I'm allowing myself to feel that desire. And then what? I don't want to leave people just with that. And so my encouragement is to give yourself a small space every day to do some of that. So if I wanted to be a dancer and I didn't make it as a dancer. Okay, but I still love to dance. Can I put on a piece of music and just allow myself to dance for myself? Just start with that. Or painting. Oh, but people told me I'm not a good painter. Well, put that to one side. And if you enjoy doing it, please, can you take 15 minutes a day, 3 times a week, even if it's not every day, but put it into your schedule. Make a commitment to yourself. This is my time to do my dream practice or whatever you want to call it. So that I just wanted to say that because I think that sometimes we get these callings and then we don't know what to do with them. And I just have found in now, I things kind of stopped, and then returning back to my artistic self was a struggle. It took some time, but these are some of the things that I did that were helpful.
Thank you for sharing that. It's so important because we feel like it has to be all or nothing. I either have to be the best or why bother? But there's so much joy in between those two places. And it doesn't mean that you have to be world renowned for it to have dancing in your kitchen bring you so much joy into each and every day.
Yes, and stop the critic that's like, oh, but it's not on a big stage, what's the point? Oh, I'm not on my, toe shoes, so who cares? No, well, what is it that you love about dancing? Connect with that, and stop the end gaining, right? Like, if it's not on the big stage, that's the end gaining. Let's enjoy every moment, every step of the journey. So during the pandemic, I can share, I shut down that artistic side of myself because I, for many reasons, but, so it stopped. And I've been feeling that emptiness and that lack. And then lately I've been really, just praying, and how do I come back? How do I come back? What do I do? And these little things. Okay, so I went back to a class and I allowed myself to be a beginner again, right? A
Mm.
music class. That's also, challenging, as we get older, to be willing to like be with teenagers who like get onto things like super quick, and it takes me a little longer now. But so I started, and then one thing leads to another. So somebody sees me there, and then so I got invited to go see a performance, and then at the performance I got this idea, and I spoke to the organizer of that show, and one thing leads to another. So you never know the unfolding that can happen once you allow it.
Yeah. That's such a beautiful word for it too, is unfolding. Because as it's unfolding, we just never know what that next unfolding is going to look like. What's around the next corner, what's around the next bend. And that's part of the excitement of it, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I can share with you, if you would like, a little bit about that
Yes,
event.
please.
So I live in a natural reserve, well, on the edges of it, here in Mexico. It's rainforest, and um, and it's beautiful. So, but it's always being, we need to protect it actively because there's always threats to
Yeah.
this ecosystem. It's a very, fragile ecosystem, and, development is just voracious, right? And the growth of the cities. So it was an event, bringing awareness to the rainforest and the animals and the plants of the rainforest. And so then I had an idea, because they're going to opening up and make it a little bit of a larger project, and I had an idea of something that I could do that could contribute, and how I could perform in this idea. And I spoke to the organizer, but as I was thinking about it, and I do a lot of my sort of, a lot of creative things come to me when I'm doing my practice, my morning practice, my prayers. And so I got this idea. I was like, it's not just about me. How can I make this something a little larger, and maybe just more than it's like me performing, coordinate something? So the moment I thought about it, I thought, and I know all the dancers here, and the people in the university and the faculty. So in a matter of a couple of hours, we've organized a team, and there's going to be a notice sent out to the dancers in the local university who want to participate and want to join. And suddenly, it's like this beautiful idea movement. In my head, it's 150 people, 150 dancers, Pascal. I don't know if 10 will show up. I'll let you know. But and I'm visioning 150 dancers,
Yeah.
right? Rolling and dancing and interacting with the audience, in the botanical gardens here in our local botanical gardens. So I had this, right? This idea that just, it keeps kind of expanding. And now, oh, and I have my musician friends, and let's bring them in. So this is just like a very exciting, sort of surge of energy and ideas and creativity. So, and we can all, you know, do things like this and make a difference also. That's like our ultimate, I think, goal and desire for many of us, right? How can we do something for our planet, for our environment, for ourselves, for others? Well, if that's something that's in you, a desire that's in you, just have your ears out, and an opportunity will come. I'm sure, because I think at this moment we're all being called to do and to contribute and to, yes, be of service.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
just
my little
listen.
story of
I
this last
love
weekend.
it. Listen to the whisper within you because it can become, right? Just allow it. Allow the whisper. Pay attention to the whisper. It's so beautiful. I can't
Yes.
wait to hear how this turns out. I hope that you're going to share it on social media and, whatever. If it ends up being 10 people, 150 people, 500 people, imagine. You never know. And this one event could turn into multiple events.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
were part of that just through listening during your morning rituals.
Exactly. Rituals are such a way to ground ourselves, to set ourselves up for a successful day, and to, Pascal, I was listening to something yesterday and they were talking about how we're in this stressful mode constantly. And if our day starts with an alarm, think about it, alarm clock, like it triggers, like, immediately this stressful response. So, um, yeah, my invitation is let's begin our days with beautiful rituals that set us up for the way we want our day to unfold. And
Mm.
yeah,
It feels like we would have much more beautiful days if we did that. Just took that time in the morning to set the container. It's interesting that you bring up the alarm clock, right? Why do we want to start our day in a state of alarm? And I've never liked the sound of an alarm clock. I just don't resonate with it. I don't like to be scared. My husband loves like jump scare things. I don't love that. It annoys me very much. So, my quote unquote alarm in the morning is a song called Dear Isabel because my daughter, her name is Isabel. And so, when that song wakes me up, it gives me a feeling in my heart, right? And so that's a more beautiful way for me to start my day. Dear Isabel, been thinking about you, versus an alarm. Rah, rah, rah. Nobody wants that.
yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I love your Dear Isabel song to wake up. That's beautiful.
I love it. I love it so much. And, at one point, my husband was like, is it time for a new song? I'm like, no, I think that'll always be my song. Cause, he's tired of hearing it necessarily. Like for him, it means, ugh, time to wake up. But for me, it's a gentle wake up in the morning because I'm not
Mm.
a morning person. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit more about you and your business because, you're all about holistic well being and, integrative movement. Do you feel like you speak to everyday women or everyday people? Or are you more speaking to professionals who, need to maybe include that as part of
Mm.
their life and business?
Well, my favorite people to work with are women, probably over 40, who probably hate exercising
Mm,
or who never did.
I'm your people. I'm your people, Sarah. I'm your people.
Who like like the idea of getting into some kind of exercise outfit already gives you like a feeling.
Yeah.
That's my favorite people. I love working with women that, are go-getters and, successful business women. They have, perhaps a lot of success in many areas of their lives, and yet this is one part of their lives that they've perhaps neglected or haven't been able to or know how to work with their bodies and work with their health and well-being in this kind of holistic approach. And I love working with, I would say, beginners. And I work with a series of different modalities, but it's integrated movement, which means that it brings all of you into account, right? Your body, your mind, your spirit, breathing, pain, awakening to your body wisdom so that you understand how your body functions and you don't hurt yourself when you're moving. Also, understanding that different people are going to like different kinds of movement. So, not all movement is for everybody, and not everybody needs the same kind of movement. So, I need to create a personalized program for each person because everybody needs different things. I do have some group classes, but in general, people need something specifically tailored for them. And what I've noticed is that if we don't address other aspects of daily life, then no matter how great a movement practice is, then it just doesn't work. So I also bring in the daily rituals, like we were just mentioning, so people are getting the best sleep and getting the best rest so they can do their exercise routine and feel great. And sleep, I think, is foundational, absolutely, for health. And then conscious eating, right? If somebody's interested in, not that my program is focused on losing weight, but that does happen when you bring in some consciousness into how you're eating and when you're moving your body in a way that's wise and appropriate for your needs and for your goals. So that's a little bit of a feeling of what my program is like. Of course, also bringing in the breath and singing, chanting. Sometimes I work with people that are public speakers who want to focus more on the use of their voice. And I teach a workshop for executives on posture, presence, and power. How do have command that stage presence and use your voice in a way that will have all its nuance and carry your message. So that's a little bit of an idea of the work that I do in my
Yeah.
program.
It's such a, you have such a wide range of skill set. And
Mm.
so it's the person who never really moved their body or consciously moved their body to the person who's on a stage and wants to affect their stage presence and become more of that. And so I really feel like you're speaking to all women because
Mm.
through your processes and what you offer and what's available in your programs, it's affecting all areas of your life. Like you were saying, your physical, your emotional, because, as a person who hasn't really loved exercise for many years, it affects my body. It also affects my health. When my body and my health are affected, doesn't that affect my mental health, right? And my emotional well-being? And so by starting with the fundamentals of movement and breath, that affects everything.
It affects everything. And, I'm not the teacher for everybody. I had
Sure.
to accept that at some point.
Yeah.
but the message of, we all need to move more, that is universal. That is for all of us. There's a quote I think it's a powerful quote that says, we don't stop moving because we age. We age because we stop moving.
So true. So true.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting because my mom passed away when she was only 64. No, 62. I'm sorry. Um, And she always called herself the Energizer Bunny, right? And we would say, like, she could work circles around us. And in spirit and in energy, she was always younger than most of the people around her. And that's exactly right. And it's because she just didn't stop moving. And she enjoyed moving. Like, she enjoyed the movement of doing yard work. She enjoyed dancing. She enjoyed just all the movement. And she wasn't a dancer, quote unquote, but she enjoyed movement. And it's just such a healthy, a healthy way to approach life, I feel like.
Yeah, how can we get more movement into our lives and be like your amazing mama, right? So
Mm.
if it wasn't because of this microphone and having to be here, could we have taken this call as we were both taking our walk out in the sun, right? Well, here it's sunny, at least today. I don't know over
It's a
there,
dreary
Pascal.
Cape Cod day. It's not so sunny. And also, this conversation would have sounded more like, so, Sarah, what?
Well, that would make it very real, Pascal.
It
But,
would make it
you
very
know,
real.
we should totally send out, the message for everybody. I hope you're listening to this as you are taking a delicious walk or, doing some kind of movement. It's so important. We're not moving enough. There was a study done. I'm not going to remember where. I think it was a town, I think in India, because back pain statistics are so high, and there was this one town that reported zero back pain, and so researchers in the U.S. were like, "Oh, that's impossible." So they were like, "Let's send a team to figure out what's going on and see." They probably messed up the test results,
Yeah.
so they go, and it's true, zero back pain, and they're like, "But what?" And they realize, oh, because people are moving and they're not sitting in chairs, they're squatting, and they are, sitting on the floor, and they're sitting in different positions, and that's why there's no back pain. So easy solution to back pain. Let's move more. Let's change. I know I've watched. I remember you have your standing desk also, right, Pascal? You're such a good example of putting it into practice.
Oh.
How's that working for you? Are you liking your?
Yeah, so I will tell you that the standing desk took a little bit of time to get used to because what I found is that, first of all, I couldn't stand still. When I was standing, I found myself moving. So if I wanted to be on video, I had to sit because when I'm standing, I'm moving. Isn't
Isn't
that
that
interesting?
amazing? Well,
Yeah,
you just hit it the nail on the head. And that's what we teach children. We teach them to sit and be still.
that's exactly right. And they're in trouble if they can't be still.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with them when
Yep.
it should be the opposite.
Yeah, so very
Oh,
true. So very true. Oh, my love. So I know that you have a retreat coming up in April. Yes.
yes.
And is it virtual?
It's a mini retreat. It's
Okay.
3 days. It's over 3 days, just 1 hour each day. And it is our 3 steps to health and vitality for busy women over 40. So if you feel called to be there and to get some more of this information and practice, I don't only give information, but I give you some practical things to do, and we'll do some practical things, super accessible. Everybody's welcome, no matter size, shape, age, whatever you're dealing with your body. Everybody's welcome. I make everything that I teach in this sort of online format super accessible for all. And if you're, a virtuous athlete, an elite athlete, come, you might learn some interesting things for your own training. So the invitation's there, and it'll be wonderful to have you there. Yes.
Beautiful. So, when listeners are like, yes, I need to learn more about that, where can they learn more information about your retreat and truly about you?
Thank you. So I think Instagram is probably a great way to connect. So my Instagram account is Namu. Namu means devotion, and it's all together Namu Alexander Yoga. So that long name, Namu Alexander Yoga, it's just some of the modalities that I work with. That's how you can find me on Instagram. You can find me with the same name on Facebook or under my name, Sara Robledo, which is a little hard to pronounce, I know, in English, Robledo. But in any of those, I think are the best places to connect with me.
Perfect. I have them in show notes, so it'll be easy for everyone just to click and go find you. Because I think that we need more Sara Robledo in our lives. And,
Hmm.
I don't have the rolling R, so I
You did it
apologize for
beautifully.
that. But
You did it beautifully.
oh, oh, my sister, my friend, you are so amazing.
Hmm.
I know that we can all learn so much from you and, by watching, by listening, by just being in your presence. So thank
Oh,
you for
thank
being
you.
here. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing your gift with all of us.
Thank you for this beautiful platform and for the work that you do. This is so important because if it wasn't for women like you who have created the spaces for our voices to be heard, the message wouldn't go out. So you have such a great mission, Pascal. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mm.